Hey, Raising Athletes podcast fans, Kirsten here, and I have to share my new favorite hydration secret with you. Corvive's Hydrate in pink lemonade. If you're looking for the ultimate hydration boost, this is it. Corvive's Hydrate is an NSF certified for sport, trusted by 4 Major League Baseball teams and 3 military bases. With 6 grams of pure organic cane sugar, it ensures you absorb all the electrolytes you need. And get this, it has 3 times the electrolytes and 4 times less sugar than those leading brands. Plus, it's developed using the World Health Organization's standards for oral rehydration solutions, making it the equivalent of a bag of IV fluids. Best of all, there are no artificial dyes or sweeteners. It's so perfect for the entire family. You can drink it any time of day, before, during, or after workouts or sports. So say goodbye to sugary juices and hello to superior hydration with Corvive's Hydrate in pink lemonade. Visit corvive.com. That's CORVIVE.com. And use promo code Kirsten. That's KIRSTEN for 30% off your order. Try it today and feel the difference. Hello and welcome to the Raising Athletes podcast. My name is Kirsten Jones. I'm a peak performance and sports parenting coach and the proud co-founder of the Raising Athletes podcast with Susie Walton. We're now halfway through year 5 of doing this podcast, and it just continues to grow and get better, and we meet more and more exciting people. People ask me all the time, why do you do a podcast? And I said, because it gives me an opportunity to meet people I would never have an excuse to be able to reach out to and say, can we chat? And today's guest, Jeremy Fouts, has an amazing story of his own rise through sports and through business and the ups and downs of business. And as a parent himself, is parenting 2 very successful athletes. So he's completely on brand. And when he and his company reached out to say, we, have aligned missions with Raising Athletes, we said, absolutely. So he is the founder of Corvive, the amazing sports drink that I've been now drinking all summer, which has been great for these hotter months. But Jeremy, we're so excited to have you on. Thank you so much for making time to be with us.
Kirsten, thank you for the invitation. I've listened to your podcast for some time, and you're exactly right. We definitely align with each other as far as our belief system, and the big value of not just raising athletes to get a $2 ring in a competition or to get a trophy to put on the wall or whatever the situation. It's to develop young men and young women. So I've got to tip my hat to you and your podcast and your belief system of teaching the right values of not just pushing athletes to be an athlete just to win something, but it's also the development process that's going to prepare them for life.
Thank you. I want to get into your company, but first let's start where we both, our passion and, I think first is parenting, right? And I don't think the reason I wrote the book and why I have the podcast is I believe there's not a single parent out there who's like, let me screw up my kid. Of course, we're all trying to do the best from where we are with what we have. We're all trying to figure it out. And sometimes we make mistakes. Sometimes we get in our own way. And that's what I hope that this podcast is sometimes a shining a light on, you recognize yourself doing something. You're like, oh, I do that on the sidelines. Oh, that's not appropriate. Or, oh, I shouldn't be even talking to my kid in the car ride home. Maybe let's start with your parenting outlook. I know you were raised in Oklahoma. You have, a little bit of a different story. And I think it'd be fun to hear your background and kind of how did that lead into your parenting mindset.
Absolutely, Kirsten. I grew up in a little agriculture town called Spiro, Oklahoma, 2,000 people in the town. And I had great Christian parents. I mean, my mom and dad, they did the best they can do with 4 boys and, taught us how to work hard and treat people right. Those are 2 of the biggest values that they taught me that I feel like prepared me for life. And I was an athlete. I played actually all 3 sports, football, baseball, and basketball, then focused on football and baseball. later on. And athletics, I thought, Kirsten, was a way to get me out of that little 2,000 people town. I mean, that was my focus. I mean, I loved agriculture. I had some injuries that did not allow me to, get to the level that I wanted to get to, but I've always had a love for athletics. And, being a part of that athletics, it helped me learn a lot about life. And, as I'm working with parents, like you on a daily basis, I see parents, as you mentioned, I've got two national athletes, one that's mainly focused on baseball now, and another one still trying to choose between football and lacrosse and baseball. But I remind every parent that, 0.023% of the kids make it to college athletics. And, I tell every parent, do not tell them that stat. You believe in them, you push them to be the best that they can be. But the overall big picture, though, what I love about athletics is the young men or young women that you are going to mature them into being. I tell all the parents, it's not just about the athlete that you are creating to win something. It's about when they get prepared or later in life, you're preparing them for the future, which is learning how to deal with failure, learning how to push yourself, teaching them about nutrition, teaching them about training the correct way and how to take care of their body. There's doctors that will take your money for any visit that you will pay them, but no doctor is going to care for your health like you should care for your health. And so it's all the things that athletics bring to the table, and also what I tell every athlete I work with is you don't just be an athlete on the field. It's about being an athlete in the classroom. It's about being an athlete in your home. If you see the trash needs to be taken out, you be a leader and you take that trash out. You participate in bringing excellence in everything that you do on a daily basis. So just like you, just like every parent, I've not been the perfect parent. I've made the mistakes, but I've tried to educate myself and give my boys the right opportunity to succeed at a high level. But it starts with me being the example. I mean, just like you said on the car ride on the way home, if your son or daughter does not perform well, the last thing you need to be doing is criticizing them more. They did not strike out on purpose. They did not miss that volleyball, spike on purpose. It's all about just being there for a comfort and letting them know that if they want to speak about it, we'll help them train better, train harder. But also failure is just part of athletics and failure is part of life. So I
Mhm.
see that the biggest thing I see with parents is mentally destroying a kid when they're down, mentally, not preparing them for those moments, but just also destroying them when they're down. That's the last thing you want to do with an athlete.
You live in a suburb of Dallas. I mentioned I was there just a couple months ago, and I know, I mean, sports is big everywhere in the United States, but in Texas, right? Like I arguably, right, particularly football, baseball, it's so huge. How do you help cut through the noise for your sons when, you're at a 6A school? How many kids go to that school?
Oh, thousands of kids go to that school. It's huge. It looks like a college campus, and that saying that everything's bigger in Texas, it really is. I mean, and you're right. The athletics is so competitive, and what that's allowed me to do. I retired once earlier in my career, and we lived in a little town in Hotchkiss, Colorado, on a ranch, and they was very active in athletics, and the competition was not as good. And I said, look, I'm going to put you in the most competitive situation that we can. Now, in doing this process, that's going to require you on a daily basis of being the best you can be. Because you might be the starting quarterback today, but then a kid moves in from California and you're not. And one of the things that I've tried to teach my boys, that's in life. That's the way things, when you get into adulthood, you can't become comfortable and just be in a state of apathy thinking I'm just going to chill out. Someone is coming for you. Life is all about a competition. And that's something I think as we get older as an adults, one of the greatest things we can do for our student athletes is be that example. You can't expect little Johnny or Jill to go do a workout, to eat correctly, to fuel their body, and you're sitting on the couch and you're watching Netflix eating donuts. So it's us being the example is something that has really been the best for myself, my wife, in raising these young athletes.
Do you have an example? It sounds like your boys are both very talented. Was it natural? You had any adversities? Have they faced any adversities,
Yeah,
whether they've been injured or not started or whatever? And how have you handled that?
absolutely. Well, I've got my oldest boy. Every kid develops at a different level. Okay, and I didn't have the opportunity to have girls, so I really can't speak on that. But with boys specifically, when they hit that puberty age, things happen. I mean, it's just crazy. Good things that happen to their body that allows them to take their fitness level up to the next level. My oldest son was a slower developer, and what I've noticed with him is it allowed him to see that and to push harder. And now that he hit that puberty stage, and that's one thing I tell parents when they come to me and they're like, man, how come my little Johnny is not the best on the team? I'm like, hey, here's what stats say. The little Johnny that's maybe is not the best on the team, but he's pushing hard and understanding nutrition, understanding sleep, understanding his workouts, and staying a consistent course. 9 times out of 10, Kirsten, they will pass those other kids. And so that's why my oldest boy now is developed at such a faster pace than a lot of kids in this last year and a half, as he's went through that puberty and it's pushed him to be the best. Was he always the best? No, he was not. We had to work through that. One of the things I do with my boys is we've prepared them of reading, the right books. Derek Jeter has a great series of books for smaller athletes.
Hmm.
Kobe Bryant has got a good book that I've had my kids to read, but continuously letting them do a good self evaluation of where they are, the things they need to work on. Now, my younger boy, that's going to be a freshman year, I had the opposite with him. He developed really, really quick, went through puberty the same time as his older brother, but he's 2 years younger, and was always pretty much the star in anything he did. Now, that's a different challenge for you parents, because what I've really taught him and teaching him on a daily basis is, look, Beckett, when these other kids start maturing, they're going to catch you. And so if you don't continue to work on a daily basis, if you are not prepared mentally and physically when these other kids start passing you or coming to equal size as you or coming to the equal athletic ability as you, if you are not mentally prepared for that, then a lot of kids cave. A lot of kids, then the fun of being the best on the team, Kirsten, they come to a level where, like, this is not fun anymore. I can't just go hit a kid and knock him down in lacrosse when I'm a defender, because now these kids are 6'2", 185.
Mhm.
So though, yes, we went through challenges. You're going to go through challenges in raising athletes, but that's why I'm big on mindset and just having the conversations with your kids. And then as a parent, what's really hard is helping your kids do a good self-evaluation. Now, I've had so many talks with moms and dads. Why is my kid not starting? Why is this? And I'm like, let's really look at your kid. Now, I know there's certain situations, and you have probably seen it too, but 9 times out of 10, a coach is going to put someone on the field that is going to try to help them win. He's not going to pick on little Johnny just because he don't like his haircut. Now, it does help if little Johnny is respectful. Yes, sir. No, sir. Looking him in the eyes when he's talking to him, shakes his hand, shows respect, treats his teammates correctly, a leader on the field. But most of the time, it's about doing a good self evaluation of your kid and saying, here's some things that we need to work on to get better. And then you, as a parent, take on that responsibility. That's something that I get feedback all the time from parents. Well, the coach is not working with them enough. The coach has got, depending on the sport, 15 to
Mhm.
30 kids that they're working with. The coach has got an organized practice that he needs to put in place. But you need to take that criticism that the coach gives you, work with your kid after practice, work with your kid on the weekends. That's your responsibility in being that example as a parent and helping your kid go to that next level.
How much do you think it's intrinsic versus extrinsic? And by that, I mean, I have a lot of parents that come to say, I know the coach says we need to do extra, but he wants to play video games. How do
Yeah.
you work with the kid who's really, really talented, but would rather sit on a Saturday and play video games than go kick the ball in the backyard.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a challenge that all of us deal with as parents. And one of the things that I try to do is provide some structure in my kids' life. So during school week, I mean, they are working out early in the morning before school, and they have their meal structure planned out. They have their practices after school. So I look at it as these are your obligations and responsibilities. And then we also have a check-in phone process in the kitchen at 9 o'clock at night, and no questions asked. And most of the time, Kirsten, they are so exhausted by the end of that night, they are not wanting to be on video games. And now, do I a little bit slip as a parent on a Saturday afternoon or a Sunday afternoon? Then yes, I will, and let them. My oldest hasn't touched a video game in probably 2 to 3 years. My youngest still going to, he's 14, going to be 15 in August. He'll still have that desire to jump on a video game sometimes on the weekend. They're still going to be kids. Okay.
Yeah.
So we don't want to put so much structure in their lives where they're like, there is no time for fun. But you've got to educate them of, look, there's a percentage of time in the day we have to either choose the education, the work, or the entertainment. Entertainment a little bit is okay, but that's not going to help you accomplish your goals. So the best advice I tell everyone is help your kids on a Sunday afternoon write out a schedule for the next week. And if you fill that schedule up with their responsibilities, and teach them this is your responsibility. It's not just throwing a lacrosse ball in the backyard because it's punishment. You told me you wanted to play college lacrosse. This is a responsibility, but letting them know that this is not a punishment. You can't play video games. This is part of life. I expect excellence underneath my roof. In order for us to do that, just like dad, just like you, Kirsten, you have your responsibilities. In order for me to accomplish those responsibilities, I have to have structure in my life, and I have to really pay attention of how much of my day is entertainment versus education and performance based.
We're talking about a $37.5 billion business that is
Mm-hmm.
youth sports, right? And so we're talking about the people that can afford pay to play, who can afford travel sports, who can afford the private coaching, who can afford the $350 bat, and all of those things. So what's interesting versus the way you and I were raised, which in Montana, I had chores. I had to buck bales, I had to mow lawn, I had to pick weeds. And there's a 40-year study that Harvard came out with a couple months ago talking about the most successful children over the long haul are those that had responsibilities growing
Mm-hmm.
up as kids. And I think with again, it's a wonderful place to be, to afford to travel to Vegas for a volleyball tournament or wherever you need to go. At the same time, what I see in my clients and with a lot of the parents that have read the book talk about, which is we are now so scheduled because we've got to go to Dallas and then we're going to here and then we're doing this. We are taking away all of anything that would distract them from this goal, right? Of being the best X, whatever sport you fill in the blank. And what it's eroding is their sense of self. Yep. Because they no longer have a role within the family. They don't know who they are if they're not the baseball player or the lacrosse player or the rugby player. And as we were talking about before we started recording, what we do know is even if they are the best, even if they do get to go play pro, maybe that'll last 5, 7, 10 years, maybe. And then you're 35, maybe, and you now have to get on with the rest of your life. So helping them find identity in things other than their sport, and grades are a part of it for sure. Being proud, but being a proud family member. And what I'm hearing you say is that's something that you model, and that's something that you really put into your family structure, right? And I think I live in a very nice neighborhood. We have a lot of things. It's really easy to take, you don't have to walk the dog and you don't have to take out the trash and you don't have to do the dishes. But when we do that, we're actually stealing from our children their sense of, I have value, just as I am.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why with us, again, we're not perfect parents, but my kids do their own laundry, have for 7, 8 years. The responsibility thing you touched on is so key. They know that when my wife and I, Candace, cook dinner, they're responsible for the dishes at night. They know that they're doing the yard work. Now they don't do the yard work, but when we first moved here for the first 3 years, they did, only because now they don't, is because we are traveling all the time and it was just not possible. But I'll never forget, Kirsten, 3 years ago, they remind me every so often, we're the only kids in our neighborhood. We live in a nice neighborhood too, that take care of our yard. And I'm like, you will thank me later. But when you talk about this traveling to all these tournaments and different things, pay to play, I mean, you're right. There's some really good opportunities that come from that, but there's also some big time, setbacks that teaches a kid that we're just going to travel here and play here, and it's all about fun. And that's why when parents call me and ask me about, it's travel sports worth it, then I tell them this, because the reason say that is because they'll look at my kids and they're like, oh, they're going to go play college. You're lucky. That's why you're spending that money, is because your kids can go play in college. Was it worth the investment? And what I tell them is, I say, it was not worth the financial investment if you're only looking at it to get your kid in college. You're better off putting that money in a mutual fund. And they look at me like I'm crazy, but it's the truth, right? You've been there, you did it. But here's what I tell them: the best investment, if you do it right, that you will never ever regret, is your memories.
Mm.
And I tell them, if your priorities are in line, that you're taking that trip to Vegas and play that tournament because it's memories with your kids. Because we know that stats say 90% of the time that we spend with our kids is their first 18 years. The other 10% of that time is after they're coming in for Thanksgiving or Christmas. But it's not just the memories of fun, Kirsten, that I really try to teach parents. It's the memories of being that example of them. When the server brings you the wrong food, are we going to throw a fit and be a pain? Or are we going to say, you know what, that's perfectly fine, thank you? When you show up to that bed or that hotel and there was going to be two beds, but now you got one queen or one king bed, of being a good attitude and showing, of living a good life. That's something that is so valuable, of teaching them about life while you're making great memories. If you see trash on the ground and you say, son, pick that up, and he says, that's not my trash, then we got to educate them. It's not about, that's not your trash. It's about, our job is to pick up the trash regardless. Our
Mhm.
job is to leave things better than what we find it. And if you go through that process of making memories while you're teaching them about life, absolutely, in my opinion, travel sports, all the negative things that it gets, it has a big impact that you can make on your kids.
And when you're in the moment and your kid's a freshman in high school and you're pretty sure that this is for sure their dream, we need to go to every tournament they want to go to. And you feel, and I get this a lot, parents are like, no, we can't miss anything because the coach says we have to be there for everything. And I always say, what are your family values? And
Yeah.
you only get 18 summers with them. So if you will not miss that 332nd tournament of the year, you won't remember it, but you will remember the rafting trip that you took together as a family when you missed that second week in Vegas, which was exactly what happened with my son when he was. I said we'll go to Vegas for a week, but in July, but then we're going to Jackson Hole and we're going to go do some whitewater rafting as a family. And he pouted in the back of the raft the entire trip. We still laugh about it now. I'm like, remember when you pouted? He goes, no, I didn't. They don't even remember
No.
that,
No.
but in the moment it feels so, yeah, but the coach said there's going to be college scouts there. And I'm like, well, unless you grow 5 inches and gain 50 pounds and can dunk, nobody is recruiting you right now. Right. but
Yeah.
but we feel the pressure, and I get the FOMO of, yeah, but so and so's already got an offer and so's got the private coach. And
Yeah.
I love what you're saying. We have to model what we want them to they're a reflection. And, that saying, the apple doesn't fall far, it is there for a reason, because usually the parents that are the ones that are carrying on the sidelines, that are, it's never their fault. It's never their kid's fault. It's always the coach's fault. It's the ref's fault. And I always feel bad for the kids, because
Yes.
the kid will be like, "Oh, she's such a pain," or "He's such a pain," and it's like, yeah, but he's only mimicking what he's seeing and what he's
Yes.
hearing. It's really not his fault,
I'm
right?
not, yeah, I mean, first off, I will say it is okay to miss a tournament for a family vacation. If you want your athletes to succeed at athletics, that's great. But what you said is key. It can't be their only identity, and you cannot let sports run your life. We have definitely got structure in our family where we have a family vacation. We're going to miss a tournament, and that will not do anything, in my opinion, but probably help your kid to give him a break here and there. You can't miss half the tournaments because you're going on vacation. That's not going to be a good look from a leadership standpoint, but that is perfectly okay to miss a vacation. Or to miss a tournament for a vacation. You cannot let sports totally run your life.
Yeah, I should be strategic about it. I mean, of
Yeah.
course, don't go right when it's the most important tournament of the year.
But I
Make
will
plans
say,
and
not to interrupt you, but I was going to share one more thing, and I've kind of forgot what I was going to share. But that the parents that act like fools on the sideline, they are doing so much damage to their kid. And I talk about that often. Of if you as a parent have a victim mindset, your kids are going to have a victim mindset. And I see it often. I told my boys, I'm going to coach you to 12, and that's what I did. And I said, after I'm done coaching you at 12, dad will probably not miss a game unless there's some reason that I have to, which every once in a while happens with running a business. But I tell them that you will never hear me say a word. I mean, my son can hit a home run and I'll clap, but I won't scream. I won't yell. The ump can call a bad ball. And I tell my son, it's 2 strikes. You should have been swinging anyway. And the parents that are continuously acting as fools on the sideline, they're telling their kids that their success depends on someone else over and over and over. And you're setting your son or daughter up for failure.
100%. Oh, we could go on, I think, for days, right? there's
Yes.
there's so much meat on this bone. And I do believe that, again, I think it's awareness. And so why, again, we share these stories are just, even parents, notice yourself on the sidelines. Like, as I was going through the process of writing this, no, I was never the one screaming and yelling, or as I have the opening story in the book, somebody hired a plane to fly over their kids' baseball game saying, fire the coaches, not because they were losing, not because they didn't even like the coaches, but just because his kid wasn't playing. So even if you're not going that far, but you're having those feelings of like, ooh, this doesn't feel good. And I too, I have 3 kids, and sometimes they were the star and sometimes they didn't get off the bench. And no, it's never fun to have your
No.
kid on the sidelines and not getting to play. And what is the gift that they're going to get out of this? And hopefully it's grit, and hopefully it's okay. How bad do you want it? Or
Yeah.
maybe this isn't for you. What
Yeah.
else are you interested in? Maybe it's time to pivot. And
Yeah.
that's okay too.
Yeah, and then two, it's just, and again, that's that self-evaluation, right? I see so many select teams here in Dallas, and there's so many other teams, and they're creating new ones all the time. And it's every team you get 2 or 3 parents that they're not happy because their kid is not playing enough, and then they try to pull this team apart to go over here. As a parent, if your kid is not playing enough, what we need to do is look at the situation. And because here's what happens, they always want their kid to play on the best team in Dallas. But your son or daughter maybe is not developed to play on that best team. And so I just talked to a dad. His son is 10 years old yesterday. And he told me the whole situation. Won't bore you with the story. He's not getting playing time. And he said, what team do you think I need to put him on next year? And I said, I don't think he needs to be on a team next year. I'm going to write you a structure schedule that on the weekends, you're going to work on nutrition and you're going to work on getting at bats. You're going to work on fielding. And in 2 hours on a weekend, he's going to get more reps at
Mm.
10-year-old than he would 3 weekends of playing select ball. And he didn't like that answer. And I said, well, the only other answer I would give you is to find a team that's not near as good as this team that he wanted him to play on, the best team. And that way he can get reps. So we have majors in baseball, triple A, double A. And I said, you need to play on this type of your kid based on what you're telling me in the videos that I've evaluated. He's a double A kid, and I can't put him on that. No, that's what's best for him. One of those two options. So
Yeah.
as a parent, we've got to do a good job. Recognize we shouldn't just want our kid to play on the best team. That way we can put on Facebook that my son plays on the best team. Your son maybe is going to be a slower developer like my oldest son. Put him somewhere where he can get reps. Put him somewhere where he can gain confidence. Put him somewhere where he can really learn the game.
And if you think your 10-year-old doesn't know whether they should be playing or not, I mean, the number of times I'll have a parent call and say, we are unhappy, we're not getting playing time. And you'd be like, oh no, and she's really upset or he's really upset. And then you get the kid on the phone and you're like, so how's it going? Great. I
Yeah,
love it.
right,
You're like, what do you
right,
mean? Well, I'm on this team and they're all really good. And there's no way I would be playing in front of so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so, but I'm just happy to be there.
right,
Or do I want to go build competence and go
right.
to a twos team or the second team and really hone my skills and get 10 more reps, 10 more times the reps that I would on the first team? Or do I just want to be with my friends or be with, the better team? So the parents always want, again, our egoic, the most egoic thing you can do, as Dr. Shefali likes to say, who's Oprah's guru on parenting, but she says the most egoic thing we can do as humans is have a child, right?
Yes,
And everything about us we think is a reflection. My child is this. My child goes to this school and they're on this team. And this is not about you.
no,
And whether they are the all-star or they never play, if they're the one, and the number of college coaches I talk to, I'm watching to see if they're picking up the trash. I'm watching to see if they're high-fiving their teammate. I'll stop recruiting the kid that can, windmill dunk for the kid that is the best teammate out there, because that's what I need. I need some glue players that are willing to put their ego aside so that we can all become the best we can be.
absolutely. College coaches, you know this, Kirsten. You play college ball and you've got athletes that are playing college. They look at this culture is so precious to me that I cannot allow a cancer to come in. And one of the things I won't get into the details, but I've got a friend that's a college coach, D1, and he turned down a really good athlete because he watched that boy talk back to his parents after a ball game.
Mm.
And he said, if he's going to talk back to the parents, he's going to talk back to me. And this is a cancer that I will not allow. And that's one thing that I've always taught my boy. Respect and manners will give you more opportunity than just your athleticism. I mean, I grew up in a town in Oklahoma that bordered Texas, and it was just as big in Oklahoma. We had 2,000 people in our town, and sometimes there would be 10,000 people, 15,000 people at the games. I'm like, where'd these people come from? But it's all those little surrounding cities. And you did not play as a sophomore in our high school on a varsity team. And I was the starting sophomore, starting our first game, offense and defense, and beat out the seniors. And the coach, in front of everyone, Kirsten, I was scared to death. He said, I'm going to make a bold move here and start Jeremy Fouts this first game. And he said, the reason why is because he's the only player that looks me in the eye and listens to me every time I speak in front of the team.
Oh, I love
And
that.
and that's what it's about. I
Yeah.
probably was not the most athletic over the people he put me in front of, but he knew that if he asked me to do this project, to run this play, to do these things, then he knew I would do my best and I would listen to him. So I'm big on respect and manners, and that will help athletes a long way in the recruiting process.
And to your point about it being a life skill, just this morning, right before we jumped on, my oldest, who's now in grad school but finishing playing basketball, has doing an internship. And he asked to meet with, he was told you should go meet with some of the leaders in the company. So he sent an email to one of the partners, "Dear Mr. So-and-so." And he wrote back, "Don't call me Mr. My name is Gary." And
Yeah.
he sent me a screenshot of that. And he said, "I didn't think that it was going to be, it was, or something about making a joke that, is it awkward that I'm calling him by his," I said, "Absolutely not. You
No.
always show deference. You always show seniority. Let him say, no, call me Gary," which is of course fine, but never lead with, "Hey, Gary,
Yeah. What's
here's
up,
the,"
Gary?
yeah, I'm the intern.
Right.
I would like 20 minutes of your time. Like,
Right.
no, like, he's going to remember you just because you were polite and how you showed respect, which he deserves, by the way.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Respect and manners is big. I mean, you
yeah.
can never ever, and that's again part of the whole travel ball process and all of that. Your kids are not going to learn respect and manners by just trying to tell them what to do. They're going to learn respect and manners by watching you. And they're not going to learn nutrition by you giving them a book. They're going to learn nutrition by watching dad and mom. They're not going to learn sportsmanship by you giving them a book. Yes, let them read. That's great. They're going to learn by watching you as a parent how you treat others.
So we've been tiptoeing around nutrition, but let's dive in. This is one of my favorite topics too. Let's talk about Corvive. Tell us about the company, about the product, about how you're helping. And what I love about this is, of course, we're raising athletes, but it's also for ourselves, and why that's so important. And exactly what you said. It's not only what we say to do, but what are we doing? What are we eating? What kind of nutrition are we putting in our bodies so that we're still being the best we can be?
Yeah. Well, Candace and I, my wife, we founded Corvive 6 years ago, and I've been in the nutrition industry for 25 years. I retired once, like I said, and moved to a ranch. I was a number one producer in a nutrition company, and I still had the passion though to put out what I think is the best ingredients in the marketplace. We only do USA ingredients, and we seek the highest certifications that we can. And we have no artificial sweeteners, no controversial ingredients in our products. And that's something that really I could not have started a company without being the best. I mean, there's a lot of nutrition companies out there. We're not going to be the first. So why not strive just to be the best? One of our top popular products that you mentioned, our Hydrate Corvive. We have a lot of the Major League Baseball teams using that product right now. It does have the NSF certification, which is a very hard certification to get. And my passion, though, for young athletes, and I teach my boys, the quicker you can learn nutrition, sleep, and performance on a workout, then when you get to college, you're going to be so far ahead of these other boys. Because the first thing they do in college is you go eat in the morning, you go to the gym, you got to take care of your studies, you go back to the field or the court, whatever sport it is, and then you hit another workout, you eat again. I mean, you have to put the right fuel in your bodies. And I see these kids that really have no understanding. They'll eat a donut and wonder why they're tired 45 minutes later. And so nutrition is something that I try to, number one, I'm 48, and I tell everyone I should still treat my body like an athlete. I mean, physical fitness, if you are not performing at the best you can from a physical fitness and a nutrition, then not only are you not going to have a good quality of life, but you're going to be a burden to your family later on. So again, it goes back to that being an example. We can't tell little Johnny what to do without being that example. But nutrition is something that I love to educate young athletes on, not just our company's product Hydrate. I'm very proud of that. I think it's the best Hydrate product on the market. We've had a lot of military accounts that's put our product against others that's outperformed it. But it's also about like the healthy snacks in between the games of choosing the grapes, choosing the watermelons, choosing the walnuts, choosing and teaching them this is a good fat. Here's what it's going to do for you. This is a carb. This is a place for the carb, for fuel, for glucose, for our muscles. Here's when protein is more important. Here's when the protein shake is more important than just the steak. If it's in between a game, it's going to be protein absorbed to be able to feed the protein synthesis in your muscles. It's going to be available within 45 minutes to an hour. That steak is not going to be available for probably 2 to 3 hours. But letting those kids find this love for nutrition, because the quicker they learn that I'm going to choose food based on performance versus just tasting good, and they learn when sugar is good and when sugar overconsumption is bad, and understanding this whole process, then they're going to be so much further ahead than the other kids. I see it every day, on the lacrosse field, baseball field, in the hot weather, the kids that go grab a Gatorade, they grab something that's not good for them. I mean, when it's time to go, they're just sitting there like they want to take a nap. And the kids that chose the grapes, chose the hydrate, chose the walnuts, chose the protein shake, they're back out on the field and their performance level is so much superior than the others.
My daughter just finished playing volleyball, but we were at a tournament a couple months ago, and some of the moms were upset and talking, and I said, "What's going on?" I said, "Well, the coach adamantly said, please do not let your kids go get Starbucks. We're going to play in an hour." And the kids said fine, and then the parents went off and snuck the Starbucks to the kids, like wanting to appease the child. So that, and then, the one mom who was a team mom, I'm just trying to do what the coach wants. But even to have, so it is interesting, right? What role do you play as a parent in their nutrition? And obviously it's modeling it too. And I'm guessing maybe those parents were going to Starbucks for themselves, so that's what they wanted. But how do we help our kids when we have this coming at us all the time, right?
The biggest thing, Kirsten, is it's not about just saying no without an explanation. It's about saying no with education. And so, if, for example, let's say that game, if it was volleyball, or I don't, what sport was that game? Volleyball,
Volleyball. Yeah.
okay, volleyball.
Volleyball.
We say they had an 11 o'clock game. They performed really hard. They burned a lot of calories. They are sweated a lot, whatever the situation may be. Then they have another game at 1, but at 12:15 they drink caffeine. Now, again, the problem with caffeine, there's not a big problem with caffeine other than what I'm about to mention, but caffeine is just a transporter to your cells. So if you mix caffeine with the Starbucks drink that has a lot of sugar in it, okay, so all it's going to do is make your glucose levels spike up like crazy, and you're probably going to feel very lethargic in about 45 minutes. The other part of that is if you drink, depending on how much caffeine they had, it's a diuretic. So we just got through sweating a lot. Now we're going to drink more caffeine that's a diuretic, and then all that's going to do is dehydrate us even more. And then you're going to ask our dehydrated muscles to go out and perform like I did the first game. No. So don't just tell your kid no on the Starbucks. Say, hey, let me explain to you why the coach said that. Is your body has to have the right amount of fuel in order for you to perform at the next level. I love my new vehicle, but I can't just put water and sand in it and expect it to get me to the next location. I've got to put the right fuel for that machine. And your body is like a machine. We can't just dehydrate ourselves and then not hydrate ourselves and then go play a ball game. And we've got to dehydrate, hydrate, get ready to go. We can't just continue to dehydrate and ask our body to perform at a high level.
What about the night before, the 2 days before, the week before? What kind of build up to like a long weekend of all the games you're going to be playing, whatever sport, but you need to be able to go the distance? Because sometimes it's not about the game. It's about that, 4, 6, 8 games later, you still need to be having fuel in the tank.
Yeah, I see. That's probably one of the biggest common mistakes that parents make. Okay. So, like, for example, if we're going to the East Coast again and play lacrosse this weekend, then they have no monitoring of the nutrition intake from the athletes. And Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, they land on the East Coast late Friday night, early Saturday morning, and they're like, oh, we need to drink a hydrate. Oh, we need to eat correctly. So what I tell parents is usually it's 3 to 4 days before of preparing is going to get your kid in the right fuel mindset and the fuel performance, but it starts 3 to 4 days before. So we have a lot of dishes that my boys love. And so, for example, pastas. We do a lot of pastas at night with shrimp, with lobster, with steak, with chicken, and we do a lot of pastas, a lot of nuts, a lot of chia seeds, a lot of yogurts, all those different foods, and I can send you a list. But we say we got to start this process 3 to 4 days before, and then also on the hydration standpoint, we try to stay away from caffeine 3 or 4 days before. Now, before game time, I might let them have a little bit of our energy drink, Corvive, but they're also drinking water right behind it. If they drink one energy drink, then they need 2 to 3 glasses of hydrating water right behind it immediately. Okay, but I tell them that you have got to start hydrating. They drink 3 hydrates a day all the way up before the game time starts. We have a high school coach here in Texas, Stevensville, Texas. They just won the state championship, and he said it's the first time coaching in 28 years I went through a whole season without one cramp in a football game in 28 years coaching. But what he does is he don't just say, okay, game time, here's a hydrate. He starts
Mhm.
3 days before. You drink a hydrate in the morning, you drink one at lunch, you drink one at night before you go to bed, and it helps flush the lactic acid out and it gets your body really prepared. You can't go into a game situation dehydrated and drink one of anything. As much as I'm high on my Corvive hydrate, you can't just drinking caffeine, not eating the right foods for 4 days, and then to expect Corvive hydrate. I'm just going to drink it. I'm going to be hydrated for 4 games. It don't work that way. It's called preparing for the situation, and it starts 3 to 4 days in advance.
So the products that you have, which ones are perfect for your? Speaking of the hydrate, or what are the other ones that would be good for athletes? So for
Um,
parents listening.
I would say young athletes, probably the most important would be our protein. We have a protein that comes in a to-go pack, and it's vanilla or chocolate. And it's a grass-fed whey protein, no added sugars, and it has also collagen as well, which we know the benefits from bone density and everything from collagen. And again, the reason why is because it's easy for your kids to absorb that protein. One of the problems with young athletes is they understand the importance it is to put on muscle, but they usually lack in two things. They're not in a surplus of calories. They're burning 3 or 4 thousand calories a day and eating 2,800. So you've got to pay attention to the calories that you're bringing in. And number two is the protein. We as a society have turned into a carb, what makes us feel good, what tastes good. Every young athlete, in my opinion, needs no less than 1 gram per body weight of protein, and you're going to see transformation in your body. I personally, when I'm putting on a bulking stage, I'll do 2 grams per, so I'll do up to 300 grams of protein a day.
Whoa.
But 1.2 is probably good for a boy, and probably 1 gram is probably optimal for a lady, but that's probably the next best. Now, we do have an energy product that is not got a lot of caffeine in it, only 100 milligrams of caffeine. We use an anhydrous caffeine, which is the most cleanest pharmaceutical grade top form of caffeine, and we have carnosine in it. You can go Google the carnosine studies, independent studies. It helps your body get the most out of your workouts, lasting up to 30% longer. It has pro-arginine, which opens up your blood vessels, also good for headaches. But the more open your blood vessels are, more oxygen can get to your muscles. So that is a really good product. If you have younger kids, then maybe that's not necessary. But your older athletes, that is a great product as well.
I don't know, what do regular energy drinks have? How much caffeine with a?
Some of the junk on the market, again, it goes back to my statement earlier that caffeine is a transporter of the things that's in it, right? So most energy drinks, like Monsters and all of them, have 200 or 300 milligrams of
Yeah.
caffeine, but that's not the biggest problem. They have tons of sugar and bad things in it. Where
Mhm.
our energy has zero sugar and vitamin C, your B12s, all these different vitamins and minerals. And that's what it makes it different. It's not a energy drink compared to like a Red Bull, Monster, Ghost. I would not let my kids touch those for nothing.
Yeah.
No way. So ours is more of a nutrition drink that has caffeine in it. It's not a Red Bull or a Monster or anything like that.
Now, I know we've had a little promotion going on, but we didn't talk about this before we started recording, but we should be giving a link to people so that they can try this, right? Is there a,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. They can go to corvive.com. And then what I will do, Kirsten, is if they want to get 20% discount off for your guest, we've made a code called excuse me, we made a code, raising athletes. And if they put raising athletes in, then they'll get a 20% discount off of whatever products that they want.
Thank you so much. And I was going to plug the protein powder too. My husband and I put it in our coffee in the morning because I do. I love the collagen. I love the taste of it. It makes my coffee taste good, and I'm getting everything that I need in one. And I'm trying to hit the one gram per pound too right now. Now I'm in my 50s, and it's about getting rid of all of the other crap in our diet, and even the stuff that we say is whole food is pure and healthy. It's not. It's the way it's been processed, the way it's been, better than anybody, coming from, being a farmer. I understand how it's all kind of
Yeah,
gone
our soils
sideways.
have been depleted. They've not been taken care of. It's become a commercial growing process. My great grandpa, when he farmed, he'd grow 40 acres of spinach and he'd let the ground set out for 2 or 3 years, grow another. Now they'll grow 3 or 4 crops in one season on one piece of land. And it's just not good for you. Another tip for protein as well is I actually use it in my Greek yogurt. So I'll take a Greek yogurt, put chocolate protein in it, mix it up. It tastes like a banana, tastes like a chocolate pudding. So I do it in my shakes. When I do in the blender, I use egg whites to be able to get actually
Mm.
more instead of water to get more protein. So you can have some fun ways, and on corebeef.com we have a recipe section, and that's the thing too, is like, don't try to introduce your kids to nutrition and not make it fun. Spend some. We do protein balls with the protein shakes all the time. We put it in a stainless steel. We take a little bit of peanut butter for the boys, a little bit of honey, a little bit of chia seeds, and some nuts or cranberries. Make little balls, put them in Ziploc bags, put them in the freezer, throw those in the cooler when we're playing. It's just they got a good, healthy snack with them all the time.
Love it. Yum. I'm going to try those. I love
Absolutely.
the yogurt recipe too. I'm not doing dairy anymore, but the coconut yogurt, which doesn't have any dairy in it,
Yes.
add some chocolate powder, protein powder to it. That sounds like a lovely treat.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But it's making nutrition fun. It don't
Yeah.
have to be boring, you know,
Yeah.
making it fun and making it taste good. And that's one thing we pride ourselves off as a company is we put a lot of emphasis on making our product taste well.
Yeah.
So our R&D team, they're always mad at me because I'm like, no, we can do better here. But make nutrition fun for your kids. Don't just always say no, you can't have that. Do an education, do an explanation of why we're not going to choose these foods, because we're after the results, not just after the taste.
Well, I am very proud to be a partner with you, and I love your work, both obviously what you're producing from a product standpoint, but even more importantly as a person. And I can tell you walk the talk, and that just makes my heart full as I, get to connect with you for the first time face to face. So thank you for all that you're doing and supporting athletes and supporting, the podcast and everything that we're trying to get out into the world too.
Well, Kirsten Jones, you've been a joy to be on your podcast today. And, again, I value our relationship and have respect for everything that you have done in the business place, not only with this podcast, but raising 3 awesome kids that had you're walking the talk too. I mean, you are definitely provided a good example. And I loved your book, by the way.
Yeah.
Just got through finished doing that, reading your book about a week and a half ago, and bring it brought more value to my life and for me to be a better parent as well.
Thank you, Jeremy. All right, so one last question. As you probably know what it is, we ask all of our guests, but how would you finish this statement? It can be a word, it can be a phrase, it can be a paragraph, but what would you say to the best athletes I know do what?
I would say prepare their mental mindset and prepare their body. It's the mental mindset is probably first, Kirsten, because you're always going to get caught in a situation where you can't rely on athleticism. You're going to have to learn how to take a deep breath and say, I'm better than this. I'm going to push through this regardless. And, I work with a lot of baseball players and I talk to them often. I'm like, would you agree that hitting a baseball is 95% mental? And they'll say, absolutely. So you can have all the physical abilities in the world, but if you're not tough mentally, you're not going to succeed. And they'll say, no. And I'm like, okay, if you're doing all these hitting lessons, all these workouts, eating correctly, what amount of the percentage of time are you spending on your mental mindset? Because we know that if you and I ate at McDonald's 30 days straight, we know what we would look like. Okay. And so that's food for our body. But we can't get on a TikTok and scroll for hours and give your brain, your mind, nothing but junk. And that's probably the biggest thing is a good athlete, one of some of the best in the world, Kobe Bryant's, your Tony Gwynn's, all these different ones, they understood the power of the mind and how to feed the mind good things to be the best. And then the training and equipping and preparing their body. And I say it that way because I think nutrition is just as important. Training is just as important. You cannot go out on a daily basis and be the best if you have not prepared mentally and physically.
100% agree. Let's start finish how we started, which we were talking about the whole mindset piece and how important overcoming obstacles are. I was actually working with a client yesterday, and he brought up Russell Wilson, and I love his podcast. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It's only 6 minutes, but he talks about, I had the best day of my life. I got drafted in baseball, actually, and the next day my father died. Right, so I went from the highest high to the lowest low in 24 hours. And he said, what I learned is the best athletes, it's not about being able to deal with the, yay, this is wonderful, but how do I get back to neutral, right?
Yeah.
So the mindset piece, as you spoke about, and that's what I love working with athletes and parents on too, is we don't always get to choose what happens to us, but we 100% get to choose our response. No. And when we are enlightened or calm or in our bodies enough to say there is space between what happened to me and how I'm going to choose to respond to it, that's the grace, right? That's the blessing. That's the opportunity for I think real growth and to make, we're not always going to be perfect parents. I make mistakes every day. And how often can you go back and say, wow, it's not the way I wanted it to go. I'm sorry. Let's have a do-over. Let's talk about it. Let's get back to neutral.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, the mental mindset is big. And I tell everyone I work with, adversity is either here or it just left or it's on the way. I mean, it's just that's the way life is. And it doesn't matter if you're my age and your age or if you're 16, So it's letting these kids know that that's life, Yeah. So what can we do to when adversity does come, be the best we can be physically, mentally, and we can look at this adverse situation instead of crying and having a victim mindset. We can look at it and say, I've been equipping myself for this. Here's the direction I'm going to go. And I'm going to look at this as an opportunity, not an obstacle. And I'm going to become better through this process.
Yes, 100%. Yes. Thank you so much, Jeremy, for being on. Everybody, please go check out Corvive.com. Check out the great offer that he's making, 20% off. I highly recommend it. My whole family's using it. Everybody on our team here is using it, and we love the product, and we love what you stand for. So please like and share and comment We're trying to get the word out about the podcast. We're now on the Believe platform, which is getting out to thousands, millions of sports podcasts around the world. And we're grateful to be able to be doing this work. So thank you again. And let's do this.
Awesome. Don't forget to put in the coupon code Raising Athletes in the coupon code for the 20% off. Thank you, Kirsten.
Hey, Raising Athletes podcast fans, Kirsten here. And I have to share my new favorite hydration secret with you. Corvive's Hydrate in pink lemonade. If you're looking for the ultimate hydration boost, this is it. Corvive's Hydrate is an NSF certified for sport, trusted by 4 Major League Baseball teams and 3 military bases. With 6 grams of pure organic cane sugar, it ensures you absorb all the electrolytes you need. And get this, it has 3 times the electrolytes and 4 times less sugar than those leading brands. Plus, it's developed using the World Health Organization's standards for oral rehydration solutions, making it the equivalent of a bag of IV fluids. Best of all, there are no artificial dyes or sweeteners. It's so perfect for the entire family. You can drink it any time of day, before, during, or after workouts or sports. So say goodbye to sugary juices and hello to superior hydration with Corvive's Hydrate in pink lemonade. Visit Corvive.com. That's CORVIVE.com. And use promo code Kirsten. That's KIRSTEN for 30% off your order. Try it today and feel the difference.